Today's guest is someone who's quietly become one of the most influential voices in the UK's renewable energy landscape. Tok Charles is the face of Spirit Energy's fast growing YouTube channel, a platform that's redefining how businesses understand the reality of commercial solar battery storage and long term energy strategy. But what set Tok apart isn't just technical knowledge, it's his clarity. He takes an incredibly complex sector and translates it into something decision makers can actually use. He's part educator, part operator, and part storyteller. And in a space full of so much noise, Tock has become a trusted signal. From the economics behind solar adoption to the shifts that will change in the next few years and decades, Tock sits right at the intersection of where energy, business, and innovation meet. Today, we're unpacking his journey, the evolution of Spirit Energy's educational mission, and the future that's emerging for businesses who move early. So, Tok, thank you very much for coming on. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me, Blaze. You made me sound far better than I ever managed to make myself sound. So I might need you to send me those lines. But yes, yeah, you nailed it.
So, just a quick question to begin. How did you end up in renewables?
So Spirit Energy is one of my family's businesses. So it was founded in 2010 by my mum, and then I joined about 6 years ago. I went into it straight out of school. So I wanted to learn business, and I did my GCSEs, and I thought I can go to business A level and then maybe business at uni, or I can go into a family business and learn firsthand. And I thought I'd rather do that. So I joined Spirit that way, and it's been brilliant. I've learned so much. Started doing design work, then moved on to marketing, and now more of the sort of overall business strategy and doing and actual growing the company.
Wow, so you've really worked your way up right from there. You have a real inside knowledge of the business and what it takes to run it. So, was there a particular moment that maybe you realized, wow, this really is the future, this industry? There's a lot of potential and room for growth here, especially within your company.
Yeah, there was. I think there's a moment where sort of the scale of it clicks to you, and
Mm,
you look at, say, how many projects we're doing as a company, and then you're looking at how many the UK, every company in the UK is doing. There's a big database where we can see all of the solar installations across the UK. And then you sort of work out the number of houses in the UK, and you realize, hang on, we've been doing this 15 years and we haven't scratched the surface in terms of how many people have adopted this technology. So then you realize, hang on, there's a lot of potential here. Obviously, renewable energy is the future. There's a lot of backing behind it. So it's a really exciting business to be in, definitely.
really exciting, yeah, very much. So, on a bit of a practical upset, what does your day to day look like, and how do you think it fits in with Spirit Energy's bigger mission? Just give us a little bit of an overview.
Well, that's one of the things I love about my job, really, is that every day is completely different in terms of I come in the morning, and what I'm doing, say, one day is completely different to the day before and completely different to the day before that. So my job, as you say, is very much to do what the business requires. Currently, we're working on our sort of growth strategy for 2026. What do we want to implement? What do we want to improve? So my job's all about that. One of the things I think we'll discuss is how we're trying to move more into the B2B sector. So that is very much the daily focus for me at the moment, is what do we need to do? So build up various marketing channels, build connections with the right people, work out how to get over sort of certain barriers that businesses have when looking at solar. That's what I'm doing at the moment. But I mean, if you asked me this question 3 months ago, it would have been a completely different answer. So it's really fun. That's one of my favorite parts about the job, is I don't know what I'm going to be doing when I come in the morning some days.
Sounds exciting. I guess it keeps you on your toes, and I guess that's why you're able to keep going and keep learning new
Yeah,
things. So
yeah,
now let's
exactly.
transition now onto your education through content. Now, obviously, most people, if they're not aware, that you have a great YouTube channel, which is on Spirit Energy. So, how and why did the channel begin? Would you be able to give us a quick?
So funnily enough, it started because we sell a battery system called the Tesla Powerwall, and we've been doing that for 10 years. And Tesla released a new one called the Powerwall 3. And they came to give us a presentation because we're one of their top installers in the UK. So they told us about it a bit earlier than they told everyone else about it. And I remember shooting my hand up saying, we want to do the first one in the country. Please, can we do the first one in the country? And they said, yes. So then I'm thinking, right, how do we market this? And we thought, well, surely the best thing to do is a video. And at the time, we'd done no video stuff. It was alien to us. So we just thought, right, we'll get our phones out and film it and film what we can. And we made a video, put it up on YouTube. And because it was the first video on a relatively big topic for the industry, it got about 30,000 views within a few weeks, which was big for us. And it didn't generate any leads or anything, but we thought, hang on, there's a bit of potential for solar on YouTube here. There's a bit of a niche, which we didn't realize. So we thought, right, we'll commit to this for 6 months to a year, see what happens. And that's how the channel started. So we just kept pumping out videos. Initially, we weren't trying to make them really go viral, just sort of answer people's questions that they have about solar. So what's the best solar panel, or how many solar panels do I need? Just little videos targeting things like that, and seeing what would come of it. Honestly, what I was expecting was it might, in the best case, I thought it might help us close deals. So solar is an industry where trust is really important. You've got sort of cowboys, and then you've got premium, well-respected installers, and you've got to show that you're in that camp and not that camp. So by putting yourself in front of a camera and showing that you do know what you're talking about and that you are trustworthy makes a big difference in sort of helping you to sell solar systems effectively. So that's what we thought would come of it. And I'd say that's been quite successful in terms of people watch them and they know that we know what we're talking about, and so they trust us.
Wow, yeah, that is some really insightful things. And I guess as well, for people out there, most of the people want to have trust in the industry. You found a brilliant way to do this. And as well, you began to educate people as well. And I can see that it's very much value up front. What you do is you're educating people, not just for your own need, but to give back. So what have you learned from educating thousands of viewers doing this?
I think our content took a big step forward when we started scripting it, in terms of when you just stick a camera up and you try and talk something technical. Even if you really know what you're talking about, you can waffle, you can not explain it the best way. And then you might be explaining it right, but the viewers, they're a bit confused, not entirely understanding. So then we started scripting it and coming up with concise ways to convey information. And that made a big difference. And it does take longer. It takes a lot of my time to write these videos and then sort of memorize what I have to say and the key points. But when you get it right, it allows you to very effectively convey information. We had a comment earlier this week, 2 days ago, actually, on a video we released, I think, on Monday. And the comment was, this channel has the highest knowledge per minute out of any YouTube channel I've seen. And I
Wow,
was quite pleased with that. So I thought we've achieved our goal there.
that is a brilliant compliment. One of the best you could have, I guess. Amazing, yeah.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
really practical tips there. Don't be ashamed to use scripts. Think about all the best TV shows and films and movies and theatres. They all use scripts. So I guess that enables you to put the most value per minute and enjoy that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
So Talk, a lot of businesses have misconceptions, and especially before they come to people like you or have conversations with you. What would you say is some of the biggest misconceptions that people have regarding solar or even battery installation?
So on the business side of it, I think they think it's going to be a big pain. They don't understand the benefit of it, and C, they think that I have a landlord, so it's not viable. As in, I can only do it if I own the building, and that's all completely wrong. Firstly, the landlord, if you install solar, or a third party will even install solar and pay for it and then sell you the electricity as the tenant, the landlord will get a benefit. And there are three key benefits for landlords. The first is increased building value. So the landlord's getting income from the building. The value of a building is based on its annual income. So more income means more building value. Second thing is, obviously, you get an annual income as a landlord. And the third thing, which is actually really key, is increased tenant retention. So businesses have ESG goals. They need to be doing they need to be taking advantage of renewable energy to reduce carbon emissions. That is coming down the pipeline. They're going to get penalized for not doing that. So being in a building with solar on the roof, it's a more attractive building. And it also means they have lower running costs, as in lower electricity costs. So tenant retention is a huge one. The other thing is solar is not disruptive. We've just installed 800 panels on the UK's busiest motorway service station, which is Cobham services on the M25. And one of our challenges there was we have to work around literally millions of people driving in and out the site across a month. We have to work around all the food deliveries for the Nando's, the McDonald's, and it's not an issue. We just coordinate it. We actually installed our scaffolding at midnight so that we wouldn't disrupt the service station. We sometimes worked overnight as well. So, I mean, we did an interview with the operations director of the service station, and he said how seamless it was and how undisruptive it was. So solar is not a pain to install. I think those are probably the two biggest barriers. Really, the landlord thing. If you have a landlord, that's not an issue, and actually, it can often be a benefit because a third party funder will communicate with the landlord to pay for it.
Yeah, that's really insightful because I can see why people would think that's an issue. Yeah. So now touching on EV charging. Now businesses are looking to implement this, especially the business side of EV charging, having this in their properties. Is it hype or is it strategic? What sort of long-term thinking are we thinking about here? What's your perspective on this?
I think it's important for businesses to install EV chargers, particularly on their own sites. We've got 3 EV chargers on the wall of our building, and they're used every day. I mean, we a lot of our staff have electric cars, and currently, I believe you can charge your car tax-free at work. So it's another employee incentive. And they're really cheap to install electric vehicle chargers. It's pretty much a cable from the consumer unit to the charger and a quick sort of application into the grid to check that you're allowed to do it. So it's very low effort, very cheap, and it's a real benefit for employees that have electric cars.
Now, a lot of people, when they think of solar, they think of obviously the economical and the environmental aspects. So I just wondered if you'd be able to perhaps share to some of our listeners who are concerned about the environment, how beneficial the solar panels are for the environment. Maybe just some quick metrics or figures if you have any on the top of your head. I know I've put you on the spot there.
The only one I actually remember off the top of my head at the moment is, well, there's 2. A typical residential solar system, I talk in flights to New York, which is a bit of a tough thing to comprehend, but a typical sort of house scale solar system would offset about 50 to 60 flights to New York. I believe it's every year, which
Wow.
it's either every year or over its lifetime, which is quite a key difference, but I can't quite remember. And it doesn't actually sound like much, but it actually is quite a lot, especially when if every home in the UK had that, the UK would almost certainly have a carbon footprint of 0. We would be net zero, as the phrase is. Businesses, that's when the scale comes in. So Cobham service station, we installed 800 panels, and that was enough to offset the carbon footprint of about 360 homes. So that was the equivalent. So just by one fairly sizable roof, but not huge, sort of a medium-sized roof, fills with solar panels, and you've sort of offsetted a housing estate.
Wow.
So it does have a real environmental impact. Yeah.
So all I'm hearing is that it's almost a no-brainer, really. So it benefits the environment, the landlord, if you have a landlord, and even yourself with the cost reduction. So I guess now for a practical aspect, where can people go? Obviously, we'll put some in the description if they want to learn more about solar. We've got your amazing YouTube channel. How would you invite people to come and connect with you and just learn more about this and if they're interested in looking at it?
Well, honestly, I'd say to give us a call. I mean, we've got a team. We're not salespeople. We've got a team full of technical designers, guys who live and breathe this, and their job every day is to sort of help people go solar, maximize the generation that someone is getting from their roof space, and maximize the investment return they're getting from their roof space as well. Many businesses and homeowners don't realize that their roof is an unused revenue generating asset. It's like if you have a buy to let flat and it's empty, your number one priority is going to be to get a tenant for that buy to let flat. And that is the same case with your roof. Every day your roof doesn't have solar, you're missing out on income essentially. So I would say give us a call, and one of our technical guys who will pick up the phone straight away and just have a chat, answer any questions that you have. And if you don't want to do that, check out our website or our YouTube channel, and it should all be on there.
Amazing. I like that. Every day you don't have solar on your roof, it's a lost opportunity to earn. I like that. And I'll make sure all of these links are in the description. So now let's take a little bit of a pivot point, and now let's talk about some lessons that you've learned yourself. So in particular, from the field, because we know you yourself has worked up from the design, and obviously now we know you go around the strategic. What challenges have you faced and lessons have you learned from behind the scenes? Was there a particular project that maybe taught you something that you had to learn the hard way?
Okay, so from a business perspective, I think any seasoned business person will think this is a no brainer, but it's something that I've learned recently, which is you have to sort of take the emotional side out of it and almost convert every decision into money
Mm,
and opportunity cost. Say you've got a project's not going well, it's overrunning, whatever. You've got two. The primary objective is to keep the client happy, because reputation is everything in this industry. So you've got to get the project done efficiently. Sometimes you have a decision to make, and I think it really helps to convert every decision into financial value, and then it becomes quite an easy decision to make. You've got option A, option B. Well, which one costs more or which one benefits more? And then it takes the emotional side of the decision out of it. That's something I've learned recently, which has helped take the emotion out of business decision making.
yeah, that's very insightful. And yeah, you're not alone. Many people say this, but I guess it's a lesson worth repeating because we all need to learn it. So thank you for sharing that. So
Yeah, yeah.
now about your personal life, and obviously you mentioned how you left school, you came straight into the business. Now, if there are some younger listeners who are looking to do something similar, looking to maybe join a family business or another business and really apply themselves in ways like that, what advice would you give them if they're just beginning their career?
The biggest thing for me that I've learned, right, is I used to, even from when I was 12, I used to think, oh, I've got to find my passion. I've got to find, like, otherwise my whole life's going to be misery. So there's pretty much a brief backstory. When I was 10, I was in school working really hard, and my goal was to get into Oxbridge. That's what I thought meant success in life, was going to Oxford University. And then about a year later, decided to join a tennis academy. I thought I could become a professional tennis player. So I went and played tennis 30 hours a week for 2 years. And then I got fed up with tennis, and I went to work with my dad's business at the time for 6 months, sort of buying and selling products from China. And I did that for 6 months. Then I went back to tennis academy. Then I went back to school. And where I'm going with this is that every single situation I was in, I loved it for the first 3 months. And then I started to look at, say, when I was at school, I'd look at tennis academy thinking, oh, that looks great. And then I go to tennis academy and I'd look at business thinking that looks great. And then I go to business and I looked back at tennis academy and I thought, oh, that looks great. So I went back to tennis academy. Like the grass is always greener. And eventually what I realized was that it's the passion for me came from getting up in the morning and working on myself and working on the thing that I sort of was doing. So whether that be business or tennis, whatever, I would say the biggest thing is don't worry about trying to find the thing that you really want to do immediately, because A, I think that will come, and B, certainly my experience, the excitement in life comes from trying to work at something every day, make it a little bit better, and you
Mhm.
have the setbacks and then you have the big wins, and it's really fun. And all the while you're improving yourself as a person and as a businessman. And I think that's the biggest thing, is don't sit around, say, after you leave uni waiting, oh, what, I need an idea. Just get on with it and see what happens, and you'll enjoy it.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really touching, and that speaks to my heart as well. I understand. And a quote that maybe resonates with you is life is a journey, not a destination. We look for
Yeah.
destinations. Oh, once I do this, I'll be happy. Once I find this. But you've just shown from your life and now the way you live it that joy and passion is all around it. It's all in the small things. So that is such practical advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it. So now thinking forward, thinking about the future, thinking about the industry itself, and even thinking about you personally. Where do you think the industry is heading in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years?
I think that really the goal is solar on every rooftop. I mean, it's the roofs are there, they're big, they're facing the sun, they are open, they are easy, really cheap and easy to cover with solar. So I think it's just the biggest thing, getting the message out to businesses primarily that solar is almost a no-brainer, as you're saying, pretty much is a no-brainer, and it will all be paid for by a third party. So they don't even have to spend anything and they can lower their electricity bills. Same with the landlords. So it makes a lot of sense. I think that's the biggest message. The second thing, in the residential sector, something people are interested in is something called vehicle to home, where if you have an electric car and it's got a big car battery, it can sort of connect to the house and then power the house. So, and a lot of people are interested in that. To be honest, I'm not so excited about it. I think there's a few challenges with it, which is the grid. The UK grid is not strong enough to handle all of these electric cars feeding electricity back into it. The government's just announced about £30 billion of spending to upgrade the grid because it just simply is not strong enough to deal with all the new homes and all the new AI data centers that need electricity. So this vehicle to grid thing, I don't think it really is too feasible because not many people have the money to have an electric car sitting around on their drive all day, and B, the grid isn't really strong enough to facilitate it at the moment. So those are that's sort of a really big hype in the industry, but I don't think it's
Mm.
that feasible. And the final thing I would say is there's a relatively new battery technology, which is sodium. It's not new concept, but it's finally becoming commercially available. And that's quite exciting because it's cheaper than current lithium batteries. And it's also supposedly safer. Not that lithium's unsafe, but it doesn't have it doesn't catch fire and sodium, if I'm right in saying. So that's quite exciting.
Wow, amazing. That's really good. Some really good opportunities there. So, what's on the cards for yourself and Spirit Energy for the next year? I know you mentioned branching
Yeah.
out B2B. Is that the biggest factor for business and then for yourself potentially?
Yeah, definitely. The thing for Spirit is B2B. How do we, how do we, should we generate the interest for it? And I think the biggest barrier is the landlords, because you can go to even a massive company doing hundreds of millions of pounds with multiple sites up and down the country, and they will go into a meeting with the landlord, say some pension fund, and they just don't want to hear it. So it's just weird. It doesn't make sense. So that's my work at the moment, is how do we get past this landlord barrier. So that's definitely the next year for Spirit, is growing into the commercial space and working that out, trying to get the cost of the lead generation down. For me personally, I think the biggest thing for me is discipline, in terms of I find that when I'm disciplined sort of across the board, then everything in my life is so much better, which is a no-brainer, but actually discipline is quite a hard thing to
Yeah.
get right. So for example, I find that when I'm really consistent with going to the gym, really consistent with getting out of bed early, really consistent with going to bed early, really consistent with my diet and working hard, everything is just great across the board. But when one of them slips, then the next one slips, and then they've all gone. So I think what I want to achieve personally in 2026 is just be really focused on keeping everything going, not letting anything slip, because then I know from experience it all slips, and then it's a real difficulty to get it.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much for sharing that. Don't worry. I think we all resonate with that. Discipline. What was it the old
Yeah.
saying? I can do anything but resist temptation, which is the classic saying. Tok, thank you so much for your time today. Your clarity and your ability to educate the market is quite rare. I thank you for joining and sharing your journey and continuing to educate people, continuing to give people better options for these empty roofs and a way to generate extra cash and a way for your committedness to making yourself a better person. how you're not worried about finding exactly what you need to do, but each day you turn up bringing your best self, whether that's in the gym, whether that's at work, whether that's with your friend, whether that's with your family. Your story truly is an inspiring one for other people to hear, and we're excited to hear all that you have to do at Spirit Energy and for yourself. So thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that's the goal. Try and get a bit better every day and try and be the best you can every day. And it's very rarely goes right, but as long as you keep trying to make it go right, then you get there eventually, I think, or you
Exactly.
start getting there.
1% better every day. And on
Yeah,
that bombshell, we'll end it. Thank you, Tom.
brilliant. Thanks, Blaze.